Blueberries are very delicious, but growing them can be difficult if you don't know what to do. But don't worry, today I will show you tips on how to successfully grow blueberries on your own backyard. Hello everyone, I'm Long and welcome to GreenMangoes, and if you're new to the channel, please help me subscribe to the channel. And for today, I'd like to share 5 tips for you to successfully grow blueberries and help it thrive and produce fruits years after years for you. And tip number 1 I'd like to share with you is the soil. The soil is one of the most important things to be considered when growing blueberries, because using the wrong type will potentially kill the blueberries and you don't even know why. So for the soil, the first thing to be considered is that the soil must be very well drained. And when you do water the blueberry, the water must be flowing out of the pot immediately in order for it to maintain good health in this pot. The reason is because when water is standing in the bottom of the pot, it will rot away your root and will suffocate the blueberry. It won't help it in any way. So make sure the soil that you use is well drained and maintain good level of moisture, and it has a good pH level. When it comes to good pH level, I mean when I use Fox Farm potting soil around my yard, the Fox Farm out of the box is already 6.0 in pH level. Most other potting soils out there are about 7.5 or so in the neutral. So 6.0 give you a little bit of wiggle room to bring down the pH level. And in addition to that, you have to amend the soil to take it down to 4.0 to 5 in terms of pH level in order for blueberry to survive in. And blueberries is an acidic loving plant. So anything above 5.0 in pH level, it will not survive, it will not produce fruit for you, and it could potentially die. So a few things that I do to amend the soil in order to keep the soil pH level down. The first thing is I add soil sulfur, and I do that every 6 months or so. And the downsides of that is that it's a process that breaks down. It takes about 6 to 8 months to break down, so very slow. In addition to that, I add soil acidifier, and soil acidifier is in liquid form, and it helps the soil reduce the pH level a lot faster than soil sulfur. And if it doesn't bring down as fast as you need, you can also use a pH down, which a lot of folks who grow hydroponically use pH down to take down the pH level, and you can also do that as well. There are a few things you can do. So a combination of soil acidifier, soil sulfur, I add to my soil to bring down the pH level down to 4.0 to 5. And make sure you check the soil with the pH level test kit once in a while to make sure that it maintains at that level. The second thing I want to give you tips is the sunlight. Blueberry loves sunlight. Without sunlight, adequate amount of sunlight, we will not produce blueberries. We won't be productive. So at least 6 to 8 hours of sunlight. But the only problem with that is that if you live in a hotter climate like Las Vegas or Arizona, so living this out in the sunlight over 8 hours could burn it and it would die in a few weeks or so. So for me, in my climate, I keep this pot in the morning sun and afternoon shade. So around 6 a.m. to noon or to 1 p.m. or so, I have a few hours of sunlight, and that's plenty enough for this to produce blueberry. And when it in the afternoon or so, when the sun and the heat are coming pretty strong in Las Vegas, this get a lot of protected shade, so we do fine. Make sure morning sun, afternoon shade if you live in areas and climate that's very hot. Other areas, they can survive pretty well with 6 to 8 hours in the sun, and it should help you thrive very well. The third tip I'd like to give to you is fertilizer. For blueberry, you can use balanced fertilizers like 777 or 10-10-10, and that will be fine throughout the year. Maybe once or twice a year, and that's plenty enough for blueberry. But for me, I use more specialized type of fertilizer, and in February or so, before the spring, I use chicken manure, and I add chicken manure into blueberries because chicken manure is high in nitrogen, and blueberry happens to like nitrogen a lot. So when it came out of dormancy, the amount of nitrogen will help a lot of leaves, a lot of growth in the plants. And the other thing I want to mention is that blueberry needs at least 100 hours of chill hours, right? They need chill hours because that's how it triggers the plant to grow and how to produce more. So it needs to be out in the garden. Don't keep it indoor. It needs to be out in the garden to get some chill hours, so that way it can trigger new growth. And chill hours can be somewhere 20 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit or so. And frost will kill it, so protect it from frost. It needs chill hours, but not frost. So after the chill hours, I add chicken manure. And then when it comes to spring, when it's starting to bloom in flowers, I add phosphorus. Phosphorus is a good source of, bone meal is a good source of phosphorus. And there are a few types of bone meals out there in the nursery. They can be 1-15-0. This one is 1-25-0, and that's the NPK. 25 is phosphorus, and this is very good to help it promote blooms and maintain the flowers, and it doesn't drop and it turn into fruits for you. And in addition to that, I also add seaweed extract. Seaweed extract is a type of liquid fertilizer that has kelp in it to promote and help root growth and stronger roots, so that way it doesn't get stressed easily when it's cold or when it's hot. And the last thing I add to my blueberry is Epsom salt. So oftentimes people ask me why is my blueberries turning red or yellow, because of magnesium deficiency. And Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate. So when I add this to my blueberry, it gives adequate amount of magnesium for it to survive. And then the next tip I'd like to share with you is watering. Watering this blueberry is one of the most important things that you also need to be knowledgeable of, is because when you water too much, the pot get really wet down there and suffocate your trees. So during the dormancy in the winter or so, once every week or once every other week would be fine. When it gets up to 40 to 50 degrees in early February or so, I water twice a week, and make sure that water it only when the soil is dry. And then when it gets to like the spring, I water it every 3 or 4 times a week. And when I see flowering and blueberries start to form, I water it every day, making sure that it has enough water to continue to produce juicy fruit for you. And in the summer or so, when it gets 115 degrees here in Las Vegas, I water twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening. I cut down the water when you have harvest all the fruits and it started to go into the fall or so, and continue that cycle again. The last tip I'd like to share with you is the pot size. Blueberry grow in the shop, for me at least, so it doesn't grow like a tree where it has a main branch, you go up and then it branch out. Blueberries grow in the shop, so it needs a big size enough of a container so it can contain the blueberries. And for this tree is about 3 years old, I use a 15-gallon container. And when it gets a little bit bigger in 3 or 4 years or so, I'll convert it into a 25-gallon or so. But when using a pot this big, make sure you have enough drain holes on the bottom for water to flow down. Otherwise, you're gonna get root rot on the bottom. Keep in mind, always make sure that when you water flows right away from the bottom of the container. So those are the 5 tips that I like to share with you, and I hope that will help you grow your blueberries, and hopefully you have succeed with it as well. If you have any question, please put on the comment down below, and I'll answer your question. I'll share my knowledge with you. Next, I'll bring the camera closer, and then I will show you how I will fertilize this when it's starting to have fruits like this here. So I have about 2 gallons of water here. The first thing I will add is seaweed extract, about 2 tablespoons or so. 2 tablespoons of seaweed, and then about 2 teaspoons of soil acidifier, and about 2 tablespoons of Epsom salt. And I'll mix this well. And of course I'll add bone meal around my blueberry. For a tree this size, I'll add about half a cup or so. And then water all this goodies, saturate it really well. And that's it everyone, thank you for watching my video. Good luck on your blueberries.